Guys, hi, welcome to another epic shader Godot visual shader tutorial. And today we're gonna learn how to make this a stylized fire shader. So yeah, let's get started. So I have this scene right here, which I have a 3D node, Flame VFX. I just call it Flame VFX, and then I have an environment node, which is just basically a basic system. I can turn this color dark, black, and also turn on glow, additive, and stuff. So yeah, coming and stuff. So yeah, that's basically it. So what we need to do right now is to add a mesh, because I'm going to be using the quad mesh for the Flame VFX. So quad mesh. Okay, I'm going to take it in the front view, the z-axis, and yeah, that's basically it. Now over to the geometry. I'm going to click on the geometry material override and click on new shader material. Click on that, click here and click new shader, and remember to turn this to visual shader and call this fire VFX or fire shader. Sure. Fire shader. Okay, and I'm going to create it and drag that here, and yeah, this is basically. So I'm going to take this up so we can actually see stuff happen. So now in order for us to make the Flame VFX, we are going to be using textures to actually do this. We are going to be modifying and manipulating a texture, animating a noise over it to cause the distortion you actually see here. This is they are basically textures. I'm just deforming them. That's how the noise texture is. So in order for some of the textures, you can easily get them in the asset library, and search for Kenny. You'll see the particle. Okay, just all right. So this particle pack, install it, and you'll get all of that. You can see this is basically what we are going to be using. So if you install it, you'll basically get it. All right, so let's get back to making the shader. Click on 3D parts. All right, so I'm going to drag this up. Now, for us to basically have a shader, we need a noise texture. We need a texture, so we can actually put in our texture. So search for, remember, by the way, mouse right click to bring up this thingy and search for a node. Click on texture and texture 2D, or you can click on this thing here to click add node. So this will be our texture. Let me take it back a bit. This will be a texture that what we are going to be using to modify stuff. Okay, maybe I shouldn't take it out far a bit because I want to demonstrate something. So I'm going to be using the transparent PNGs. Oh god, why is it lagging? Okay, so I'm going to be using these flames that's this flame that looks like a candle. Click on that and you can see it actually is there. This is the flame texture I'm using. So right now, if you basically take this to the albedo, you can see it just showing dark, like it's just dark. Okay, let me turn the environment to sky so you can actually see that it's actually black, just like that. But if you take it to the alpha, that goes. So this basically just says that anything black value is basically be turned invincible when you connect it to the alpha node. And if you connect that to the emission, we get the normal color of the texture, which is basically how the texture actually looks like. So they are just basic stuff. All right, drag that out, and we're also going to be using colors. So I'm going to be adding a color parameter. So we can edit it. Now, color constant, you won't be able to edit it in the inspector, but a color parameter you'll be able to edit it in the inspector. And I'm going to call this color. Just call it color, default value, white, and stuff. So yeah. Then for the color to other, let me just change it to something else so you can actually see it when it works. So for us to make the color affect this, we need to multiply this to the result of these two nodes together. So drag that out, and I'm going to be using a multiply node to actually do that. And if we click on this item here, you can see that yeah, it's all black. So we drag Okay, I'm supposed to plug that there and that's here, and you can see that the flame actually turns orange basically based on the color. So if I connect this to the emission and to the alpha and to the albedo, you can see that it's actually changed the color, and we can just get over to the our quad mesh shader parameters, and we can change the color as we want. I don't know if you take it towards the blue, it turns invincible. Don't know why that happens yet. When they have figured it out, maybe. So yeah, that's it. Now we need to create. We have gotten our texture and our color, so we need a noise texture to deform it and make it all flamey. So we're going to say also be adding a texture to the node, and click on the empty, and we're going to make a new noise texture, and on the inspector click on noise, new fast noise, and yeah, you have your noise texture and stuff. And if you click on this eye drop thingy, you get the noise. So we are going to basically make them add it with the results from both of these things, both between the results with this guy basically. So drag that out, and to do that again, we are going to multiply them. For now, just experiment and try multiply always first before you try other operations like add, subtract stuff. Yeah. So if you take the results from both of them too, and okay, again, this guy here and this guy here. So if I drag this out, you can see it actually is turning like that. And if I just this will be the let me just connect it to the outputs in the albedo, in the alpha and in the albedo. So now you can see that it's actually turning transparent. Remember, black values turn transparent when you connect something to the alpha. So yeah, that's it. So let me just turn the okay, whatever. All right, so with that done, the next thing we need to do is the flame texture. You can see actually see the flame texture deform. We need to deform it to make it less noticeable. But before we do that, maybe we should actually make the the noise texture move and just show you how the deformation is being done. So I'm going to go for us to move or animate this noise texture. We are going to use the UV and the time node. So drag that out, and we're going to use a UV function. A UV function will let us control its scale and offset. And right in the UV, you click there and add the UV. Because without the UV, we can't do anything. Yeah. So we drag that out. Next is the offset. Offset is basically the position of the noise texture node in time and stuff. So if we drag that out, again, we are going to be using a multiply node, because if we use only the time, nothing actually happens. So connect that. So we need a controller. That's why we are multiplying the time value by the vector inputs to be able to animate it. And let me drag it out a bit so you can see the noise texture. And if we add a time node, you can see that nothing happens, like it's still just there, because these values right here are 0, 0. So we can actually do it here. You can actually make it move here. You can see it's actually moving towards the left because we set the x to this to 0.5. So yeah, it'll basically work. And I don't know why Godot for the preview is actually gets messed up like this when we start animating texture. So that's basically what we want. But we want to be able to control this in the inspector, so we are going to be using the inspector to parameter. Remember, parameter goes to the inspector, constant stays in the graph. So vector to parameter, and we are going to name this speed and set our default values, which you can actually do. And I'm going to make the is going in the x in 0.2, and then make it go up by 0.5. Let's see. All right, now you can see we actually moving it, and it's actually deforming pretty nicely. Let me just change the color real quick. I don't like that color. Okay, it's still not good enough. All right, so yeah, now if you look at it closely, you notice there's this line, yeah, just passed, that is doing that. So to stop that, you click on the noise texture and go over here and turn it seamless, and that line to me will disappear. So just a quick fix. Now we actually have this, but let's be fair, like you can still see the shape of the texture, and that's not actually how Flame was. Flame doesn't stay in a container actually, so it actually moves and deforms and stuff. So in order to do that, we are going to be doing something before we connect the color and our texture to the noise texture. We are going to make it less visible, like making the darker areas more than the whiter areas. And how we can do that is using a power node. So if we add that, it's actually power in Godot, that's in Unity, a power node and vector 3 power node. Okay, and I mean click on this eye drops in it so you can actually see that. And if we add that, you can 0 0 because there's basically nothing. So for us to manipulate the values, we are going to be using a float parameter, so we can edit it in the inspector. And I'm going to call this dissolve amount because it's going to dissolve the whiter parts of the noise texture. Just arrange this real quick. And now for default values, I'm just drag. You can just drag it. Okay, no, let me just set, if I set it to 1, okay, I'm going to disconnect the UV animation so we can actually preview what we are working on. Okay, if you set it to 1, you can see that it's actually the same thing as our noise texture. Well, set it to 5, and boom, the darker areas are much more than the whiter area. The whiter areas are getting extinct. So yeah, that's what the power node does. And if we connect it to the main node, you can see it's actually much more deformed. Let me connect the UV back, and our flame will actually start looking like flame. You can see that. Okay, so what now we are gonna do is actually make it much more visible, because right now it's basically faint. And in order to do that, we need to add an emission strength, basically something that can make it much more emissive, pop up more. So we are going to multiply again with another float. So click on multiply vector 3, and let's just turn on the preview. And we are going to be using another float parameter, and I'll call this emission strength. Call this emission strength. I hope I spelled this well. Yeah, I did. All right, so I'm going to also add a default value. Why isn't my middle mouse button working again? Okay, so I'm going to add that, and for the emission strength, let me disconnect the UV again so we can actually see the preview. We can actually see it in the image, but I want us to see it in preview. So emission strength, I'm just going to add 50. And with a look at that, it's much more visible. Now we need to obviously, oh, it works. You need to obviously connect it to the emission, and that's why replacing this guy. You can see it's popping up. Connect to the alpha. It's getting too bright, and connect to the albedo. And yeah, it's too bright. So we're just going to go with 10. And yeah, so if we connect the UV back and let it animate, we get a nice we get a nice flame texture. So I'm just going to make the X a little bit lower, so it's, yeah, you can see it's pretty nice. So if you are going for a realistic approach, you can change the colors actually. So it looks much more flamish. Yeah, something like this. And yeah, if you're going for something realistic, it's okay to, you can actually leave yeah, or skip a little bit ahead. There's one more thing you need to do. But if you are going for a stylized cartoony style like me, I don't like realism in games, so I like stylized stuff. So we are going to make this thing look much more toony or cartoonified like you saw in the thumbnail and stuff. So in order to do that, we are going to use a round node. So let me just add it a round node, round vector 3 node. Now I won't turn on the preview first, but see all these little drag this down, these little faded parts. The round node is going to get rid of all that. It's going to turn all float points literally into integers. So it's just going to approximate everything to integers. So there's not going to be a little bit of faded side. That's what makes it look much more stylized and stuff. So if I actually turn on the preview, okay, I need to disconnect the UV. No, let's just connect it straight to the I'll connect it straight to the node. So emission, notice the changes. Why is this still lagging? What the hell? Okay, you can see it's looking like that. If it's connect to the alpha and to get a perfect distortion and stuff, and albedo. And yeah, that's it. We've done it, created a flame shader. Now if I come over to the color and just take it a little bit brighter, you can see it's actually looking much more flamey, I guess. Then if we go over to the dissolve amount and reduce it, you can actually get more different values. You can just play with it and guess what your taste, based on your taste, your preference and stuff. You can change the color. It gets erased in the blue value because it's a darker value. You can turn it pink. You can turn it pink and red. You can turn it red and yellowish like an actual flame is. If you want the red value, redder part to be gone, I increase the emission a bit, and the red parts are much more gone. So yeah, that's basically this is a flame shader. Well done, guys. You have actually made a flame shader. But there's still one more thing we need to do real quick, because if you rotate the view, the flame is actually not looking at us. Oh, and we can see it from the back. So we need to fix that. But first of all, in order for us to be able to see it at the back, click on your mesh. Click on your mesh instance, go back to the shader modes and turn the core mode to disabled. And yeah, it works. You can see it from behind and that. So now let's make it actually always look at it so you don't see this flatness and stuff. So in order to do that, we're going to go over to the vertex shader and the vertex part of the graph by clicking on this thing here. Look at the fragment is basically how it looks like. Vertex is vertex. All right, so go back to the model view metrics, drag that up and turn it into our get billboard metrics. This actually only works in Godot 4. Unfortunately, in Godot 3, I still don't know how to make the billboard works, and you can see it actually looks at the camera, no matter where you pan it and stuff, it actually looks the same and stuff. Can maybe I don't know, can just like why billboard, let's see, yeah, why billboard will make it not, look weird, like always looking at you even upside down. So yeah, that's basically how you make flame shader. And by the way, this is actually also workable in Godot 3. Let me show you real quick. So it's Godot 3, and this is it in Godot 3. So yeah, I'm using a different texture, actually one that I drew myself. Yeah, so you can see it here. And one thing about the Godot 3 version is actually you can turn the color to anything. Like, I don't know, I can't recreate the same thing in Godot 4, the same effect in Godot 4. But yeah, in Godot 3, you can do that. Change it to every color. And yeah, you also have dissolve amount and all that. All of this will be available in the asset library, like this. And I can change the texture. Yeah, I can change the texture to whatever I want, and just change the texture, and it looks like that. Also in Godot 4, it's one more thing we haven't done. There's one more thing we haven't done. We haven't made it to be able to change the texture in the inspector. Let's do that real quick. So now to do that, we need this sampler to the I don't know why the middle mouse button is stopping. So you're going to use the sampler to the side. So click on that and add a texture to the parameter. So remember, parameter is actually lets you do stuff in the inspector. So when you do that, and I don't normally supposed to give me an error or warning, though I didn't. So let me see if I can drag any texture in and it just works. Yeah, it's not going to work yet. Why? Because you can see it actually here, texture. You can change the name to texture. It's lagging. Okay, so why it didn't work? Because right now this texture 2D node is in texture mode. We need to turn it to sampler port, and boom. Yeah, we need to add that texture back again. Let's add some texture in there, and yes, you have a stylized fire. You can change the texture to whatever you want. I can drag another texture in there, and it will just follow the shape. You can even decide to add a ring of fire, add a circle texture, like whatever you can think of, just do it. The ring of fire, you want a cat to jump over, you got it. In your game, you can add, I don't know, black magic. Let's see, magic stuff. And you got fire shader on it. You can add a slash, and you got fire shader on it. And like, you can basically do anything. You can add a star, and you got fire shader on it. So that's basically it. So one more thing before I quickly go. Might be wondering, maybe it looks different, my results look different from what you have. Yeah, it's basically just added smoke particles. Okay, smoke particles, like I see I turn on a little bit of sparkle thingy. Yeah, sparks on them. Just basic particle stuff. You can actually do it, add it. And look at the flame in a candle, looks pretty neat, right? All right, so before I go, in case you don't want to download, let me just drag and show you guys the Godot 3 screen shader node setup. If you can get this really clear. So this is it. Don't know if you can see it, but yeah, this will all be available in the asset store. If you come over to the asset library and you search dev tools, you'll definitely be seeing it. So yeah, if you come here and search this, you see that I've not uploaded it yet, but after this video I'll be uploading it. Yeah, so that's basically it. If you like this video and learn something new, please like and subscribe for more. I'll be doing more visual shader stuff. I'm currently learning how to make shaders and visual effects. I'm actually using Unity. You can see Unity is actually in the background. So yeah, I'm learning from Unity and then incorporating all those ideas in Godot. So subscribe to the channel, will be supportive and make me know that I'm doing something people actually appreciate. So like, subscribe and stuff, and I'll see you in the next video. I hope this thing didn't take too long. 24 minutes. Bruh.